Why don't we just decide to have a dinner to celebrate the lamb? If I could supply someone with lamb for their spit and they were like, we're just having people over to celebrate this animal that you raised because we love lamb. Why can't we do that?
We love a special series on dirty linen, and this is another one. This is the first episode of an occasional but ongoing discussion with Jenna Abbruzzese. I first encountered Jenna more than a decade ago. She was a chef at Rumi, a Middle Eastern restaurant in Melbourne, and then she went on to open her own business, Kitchenette, with her friend Megan. Kitchenette was a cafe and food store where everything was made from scratch with love and sensitivity. Now Jenna, an accomplished chef by any measure, has turned to rural life. She is now a lamb farmer. With her partner Alex, they are Addington Downs, a small farm north of Melbourne. In this series, I want to ask why. I want to find out what it's like. I want to learn about the reckonings and realizations when a perhaps inexperienced city woman goes all in on livestock. Now, I feel that there'll be new listeners to Dirty Linen for this series, which is great. There's always new listeners coming in. So you are listening to me, Dani Valent, your host. I am a Melbourne-based food journalist, writer, podcaster, endlessly curious about food systems and the way that delicious things make their way to our plates. Jenna, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hello, it's very good to see you again. Chat to you.
It's really good to see you as well, and I'm excited to learn more about your story and what has led you to make this huge transition. Do you want to start just by introducing yourself? If we met at a party for the first time, how would you explain yourself?
Well, usually I try to avoid that, and I'll ask you many questions so that I don't have to get going into that quick. We decided that hospitality as an industry, sort of after COVID, had become quite chaotic, I guess, and it was very hard to accept that our business had evolved and changed. And that's not really what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to introduce myself. I farm lamb and I live on 10 acres in Addington with my wife, Alex, and we're just making a go of it. Yep, that's it.
I mean, you can say anything you want at this party, Jenna. You can start anywhere that you want. And I suppose
start very serious about my reckoning with the hospitality industry, but really, like, it's made up of so many little decisions and little reasons, and yeah, but essentially, like, we wanted to produce our own food, and that's quite hard to produce your own meat. It's fine that you can basically anyone can grow some vegetables, but growing your own meat is something that you have to, like, seriously decide that you're going to do that and then push forward with that. And I didn't just want to have, well, firstly, we're not rich, so we don't have a hobby farm. It's not possible for us to just have a hobby farm. We have to pay the bills in some way, and so that's what's pushed me to sell our meat. And so it might not actually work out in the end, really, in terms of money, but we are in control of how the lamb is produced and how it's cared for. And along getting to this point, along this journey, the connections I've made with other farmers mean that our other proteins are completely traceable. I even work for our beef and our pork, and we are just so much more connected to our food than ever before, and that is the underlying reason for all of it. I just felt like our shop, our little cafe, restaurant, food store, whatever it evolved into, was becoming more and more disconnected from what my values were, and I couldn't see a way to fix it without starting again. couldn't see a way where we could have a healthy, stable, like the life that we had created with that business got turned upside down, and then we tried very hard and made it, made it stable again, but it wasn't, my heart wasn't in it anymore. Yeah, we switched during COVID, and the business was awesome and things were going really well, but it wasn't what we both tended to do, so.
You mentioned that you realised your business wasn't aligned with your values. Did your values develop through your career in hospitality? Did your work or your life prompt you to ask certain questions of yourself and to develop the philosophy that led you to make this massive change?
So, firstly, as a baby chef, I have worked for people, like 90% of my employers or head chefs have had locally grown or ethically sourced or produced, like the most beautiful produce that Victoria or this country can produce will be who they order from. Like, I've always worked in places where the produce is exceptional and that it's something that is highly valued, and whether it's the person who's in charge is really passionate about where the pork's from or the vegetables, like, it just sort of, it wasn't really one or the other. It's just that one chef will be like really close with that farmer, and so these things, are sort of ingrained in you, and then you move on to the next workplace and it will change. Like, they don't really worry so much about where the pasta's from, but they're really obsessed with where they're ordering their veggies. And so, different bosses, different focus. You know what I'm saying. And you can see why, because that's the price. There has to be a give and take sometimes. If you want to spend a lot of the food cost on the proteins and you want the farmers' names on the menu, then other things will have to go by the wayside generally. It's impossible unless you're like, I can't even think of a place. Maybe Bar Merenda, that place is very, very good at sourcing everything from the best producers, but generally something gives. And so I'm totally aware of that. And with our shop, there were things that I would be okay with, like, okay, yep, that we can push and pull a little bit here, but the making sure that everyone was paid properly, making sure that all the bills were paid. We were financial. My whole obsession was to be financially sustainable. Everyone was carrying on and on about being environmentally sustainable and having like compostable vac bags, and there was always this focus on pushing the business to be more environmentally aware, and all these things that everyone else is doing. But I felt like for most of my career there wasn't a focus on financial stability, financial sustainability. And so paying ourselves properly, paying our own super, making sure everything was above board, paying tax and blah blah blah, that was very important to me. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to compromise on the ingredients anymore. And I don't think that, I think we can earn more money working for other people now. After COVID, things shifted and the demand for people like us and our skills shifted. We were being sought after for our skills, and we were able to ask for a lot more money than ever before. And it didn't make sense. Our business couldn't provide that anymore for us. And so it was like we would have to pivot again, which we could have, to get it to be, like a nice, comfortable living for ourselves, but I just did not have it in me to pivot again.
And when you think about, that your skills were in demand and you could have gone somewhere and earned more than you were able to pay yourself as a business owner, did that also make you think that you would inevitably encounter some of those like costs being pushed down the road that you weren't prepared to countenance in your own business?
Yeah, yeah, I just, I needed space as well. I needed to get perspective on what was the point of, what was the point of having our own business, having that business? Like, you can work for yourself. It doesn't have to be, people change their mind all the time, or people open a different shop. Like, there's loads of hospitality business people that will just have an idea and they just open another shop, like, let's open a steak restaurant, let's open a Hoppers restaurant. Like, you can be creative and have outlets and many businesses, but I'm not. I know myself, and I don't have what it takes to be across multiple venues. I just want one business, and I get obsessed with it, and I can't. It's just spreading myself all over. I just couldn't do that. I learned that about myself early on, and yeah, so I think that making sure that you're getting out of, every day you have to get up and be okay with what you're doing, but are you getting out of it what you want? And so being in the kitchen and cooking, and like, that would be it, regardless of what the business was, that would be what I was doing, and that was not making me happy anymore. I just needed to get outside. Like, I knew that working long hours in the kitchen under the fluorescent lights, not spending enough time outside, not eating properly, like, those things can't change unless you really change the whole structure of how your day works. And like 20 years of that, of sort of learning a way to work, it's very hard to undo that without putting a big, like, blowing it up, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it does. It really does make sense. But then it still seems like a pretty big leap to become a lamb farmer.
Well, it's sort of just evolved that way. Like, I knew that, well, so firstly, my partner, her family run Angus, and so there's a bit of farming on Alex's side, and so they have cattle, and we always knew we wanted a bit more land, and I sort of asked a lot of questions. I asked Alex's dad, basic stuff about how you work out how much land you need for how many cows and all this sort of thing. And then I just went down rabbit holes like dry sheep equivalent. The DSE is the stocking density of what your land can carry. You can go online and research, like, you can just read so many blogs and everything, but like, the weather is the weather, the rainfall is the rainfall. 1 acre here will be very different to 10 k's down around the corner in Burrumbeet, where they get less rain than us, and so they can't have as many sheep. The stocking density on their land will be different to 10 acres here. That sort of thing, all these things that I had to learn about to be aware of what we could do. Can we do this? Like, what do we need to do to be able to do this? And so moving out here was one thing, taking on a very old rundown property with the goal to use our own labour to fix it up slowly, and then finding a job that would bring in some money that wasn't in a kitchen, that would teach me skills that I could use here to fix this place up. Sort of, that was, I don't know, it was like the perfect recipe of a little bit of luck, a little bit of like hard work, sort of networking, going to crafting the perfect email to Brooklands to say, hey, I love what you guys do. Do you think you might take on a volunteer for a day a week so I can learn, but I'm a hard worker? Like, that, just trying to work out how I could get the knowledge and also build the relationship so that, like, I wanted to have more of a like a give and connection with people, not just this transactional exchange that the shop had become. We had made some amazing friends and beautiful connections with customers through our business in Hawthorn, but there was also an element like that everyone's so busy and everyone's just like, get the chicken wrap, and on the lunch break they're eating it on the street, and large latte double shots, and I've got to be here and I've got to be there. And I was just like, you are a part of these people's day. You're like a 5-minute, 10-minute part of their day, and then that's it. You're the sandwich maker in the cafe that they see, that they love, but that ends. And for me, I wanted more real connection. Yeah, I didn't just want to you give me money, I give you a sandwich. I wanted more than that. So yeah, I tried to find that, and I did find it. Yeah. I found a couple who shared very similar values to Alex and I, just like no bullshit, hard workers, just trying to do what they believe in and produce something delicious and beautiful and enjoy their life, and really loved the lifestyle that small-scale farming provides them. And it is pure luck that Jono and I get along really well, and Nat is just so awesome. Like, it could have been a very strange situation where I go to learn from them and they're weirdos, and like you don't know what you've gotten into, and it's just evolved in a way that is just so beneficial to both of us, like to them and to Alex and I, that I honestly couldn't ask for it to have gone any better, and at a pace that has been very good for Alex and I. Like, things have evolved in a way that when we're ready for the next challenge, the challenges come along and we take it on, and Nat and John are always there to soundboard off or to support us, and then we're ready for the next thing. And so, yeah, starting to volunteer there one day a week and having some casual sort of chefing shifts while we were getting settled here, and getting into a bit of a rhythm with them, and then slowly taking on more with them, so taking on farmers markets, so that they could do more farmers markets, and taking on more farm work so that they can have time off, maybe to get a kidney transplant. So that...
Yeah, well, I'll just butt in there and say that long-time listeners to Dirty Linen will have heard, or perhaps have heard, my chat with John O'Hurst from Brooklands Farms after he had donated his kidney to his wife, Nat. So pretty incredible personal story that, as small farmers, inevitably is intertwined with a whole lot of land and animal, and just, it doesn't get much bigger than that, really. And, Jenna was there to support the couple with the farm during that enormous medical situation, which worked out really well. So, it's that sense of community. I mean, do you feel like you have found and are likely to continue to find that deeper connection beyond the 5-minute chicken sandwich stop?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the idea around, like, farms having to be big and to scale, like, yeah, I mean, hospos like that too. The groups have bought many restaurants, and they open big restaurants and they have big buying power, and that's how it's viewed now, that's how you can make serious money, and farming is like that. But I was obsessed with this idea that we only need, first of all, we know how much money we need to live a good life. And I was obsessed with having, customers that basically like 20 customers or 20 households. Imagine if you weren't pushing every month to grow and trying to and get exposure and marketing and all this bullshit that everyone has to spend time doing that they don't really like to get more customers, to put themselves in front of more people. And I thought, Brooklands has been at the markets for like a decade, and they have beautiful customers like we did in Hawthorn. So I love that part of the market, the regulars. But they nurture those people with their meat, and that's it. Like there's not a lot more, because the people want the meat. Brooklands grow the meat, and it's just seemed a lot less like no bullshit. And so I was like, well, we're like, how big are we in comparison to them? We're a 15th of the size of their farm, and they even have a small farm. And so you can imagine our farm is micro, absolutely micro. So I was thinking, we only need like 20 customers to be able to, like, our land can only carry this much, and then we would be able to have this much, and we could sell that much. And how many customers? Okay, we can support 20 households that then support us. That's not a transaction to me. That is we are nurturing your sustenance, your nutrients, your protein, but like we love it. Like we love those lambs, we love our sheep, and I only want customers that truly understand that, like that value it, that care deeply about how we care for our animals. Not everyone is able to have big restaurants. Not everyone is able to have big farms. So I think the point of difference that we can offer, I'm trying to turn the small farm into like this super positive thing, because I'm sick of hearing about, it's too small, you have to scale. I don't think so. I think that we have found a way to do it, and it's pretty risky because of the abattoir situation, but it's also not super risky because we're so small. So if things do go pear-shaped, it's like, well, we could just eat them all, like ourselves. Anyway, that's something else. But see what I'm getting at. What we can offer is more love, because that is what happens when you have smaller numbers.
I think what's really standing out to me is this idea of enough.
Yeah. It's a big thing for me, because we just racing on the wheel, to what for? To buy a bigger car, a bigger house, and everyone just is overworked, burnt out, not healthy. Like, I don't know, it doesn't make much sense, really. Like, you don't need much. Like, people don't really need that much. Yeah. But we need good food.
I love it. I actually really love that I don't feel the need to cover everything in this conversation, because I know we're going to keep talking. And I think the reason I want to make this a series and not just a one-off chat is because I think it's so important for people to understand what you're doing and to go on the journey with you as much as we can. I think there's something really special about the kinds of connections that you want to create for yourselves, but also for your customers. And it's so important that people understand where their food comes from. I think so much flows from that.
I feel really excited because I love to chat, and everyone knows that I love to chat. But like, if there is one person out there that is thinking, oh, we're too small, we wouldn't be able to do it. Like, don't think that. You can do it. The micro abattoir is there, and there's going to be more coming. In the next 5 years, there is definitely going to be more micro abs, like without doubt. There's avenues for you to, chicken is a big thing that is in the poultry. It's like in this big flux at the moment because of the processes, and like our abattoir in Barham, the Murray Plains Co-op, they are processing small numbers of poultry. So I'm like, oh, and the Wildwood Farm guy, Ben, he's doing turkeys. And so there's so much opportunity out there. There really is. For small, you just need a few acres. Like, so if this gets people excited to do something, then that's what I would really love.
So Jenna, maybe like I've been following your journey along on Instagram, and I certainly recommend that everyone listening to this has that engagement with you as well. But tell us, just let's finish this chat with a bit of a golden moment on the farm. Like, just talk about engaging with the animals. I don't know, just there's so much that happens there. What's something that, a moment that stood out to you as an endorsement of all the decisions you've made that have led you to this point?
So I think, like, looking at your animals every day and noticing who is healthy and who is not so healthy, who needs a bit more, who needs a boost in their feed. Or I think for me, milking our goat is the highlight of this whole journey, because we are working towards being a micro sheep dairy. And I know that she's a goat, she's not a ewe. And so she's like the gateway to milking the sheep. That will come in time. But she just looks exceptional at the moment. Like, she, for the time, like at this point in her lactation would be when she would start to drop off. Like, she's had her kid, we've weaned him, she's given everything to him. He's big and he's beautiful, and she's grown him beautifully. And so now she should be starting to drop off a bit and look a bit dusty and not so shiny and skinny, but she just looks beautiful, and her milk tastes incredible. She is a good marker of, because she's being pushed the hardest in our flock herd, because we have alpacas, goats, and sheep that we run them all together. I can talk about, but they because we're milking, she is essentially being pushed the hardest, and so she's the marker of how they're all doing, really. And I'm really proud of this. Like, we're coming into the end of the summer and the animals are looking very good, because we are experienced. We are at the very beginning, having livestock and rearing them, looking after them. So I'm pretty excited, because we are small. We start off with, these handful of animals. Like, when we started, we just had 2 ewes and 2 goats. And being able to practice on them and then slowly get some more sheep and get another goat, and, this idea that we can expand slowly once you get your head around, okay, this is how we can best care for these animals. When you start to grow, you realise, shit, that's going to be really expensive if we continue to feed them like that. They're getting fed like absolute queens. Like, how are we going to afford to do that? We have, add another dozen. So you've got to, it's like that, okay, so the food cost is this, we have to make a few adjustments here, so where are we going to drop the quality, So because basically we can translate that experience in the restaurant to here. Well, it's just a dry store out in a shed outside. It's basically like a dry store. So yeah, I don't want to compromise. And Alex is like, oh, you're ordering a lot of expensive things for the sheep and the goats. And I'm like, yeah, well, we want the best lamb, we want the best milk. They have to eat the best food. So how to charge for it, that's where I will, like, I have to really be very careful not to put us in the shit, basically.
Yeah, well, I guess like the numbers is something I'd like to dig into on a future episode for sure, because it's it's obviously a huge part of it. And, you know, you said up front, financial sustainability is such an important thing, and rightly so. So yeah, we'll get into the nitty gritty on that at some point. What are some other topics that you would like to cover in our ongoing series, Jenna?
I guess the idea that, like, the celebration, the part of, we generally, all of us, most foodie people, will go out to celebrate an event like wedding anniversary, birthday, but we don't usually, like in other cultures, a lot of religious dates or significant dates within the culture are celebrated with meat, with a body of the animal that gets cooked in a specific way, and then they, like, everyone comes together as a community and shares in the feast. I don't feel like that's not part of Australian culture. Like, it's more, the Australian culture is more about celebrating the people, not the animals. Whereas there's so many festivals for different food in other cultures. And I feel like, why don't we can do that? Like, even if we just continue with the idea that Australia, well, not an idea. I mean, Australia is multicultural, and we just borrow from so many cultures, and we can, you know, we just make things up how we want. Like, you want banh mi for lunch? No worries. You want to have ravioli for dinner? Awesome. Why don't we just decide to have a dinner to celebrate the lamb? Like, why does it have to be someone's birthday, someone's... And so I would love for that to be, like, if I could supply someone with lamb for their spit, and they were like, we're just having people over to celebrate this animal that you raised because we love lamb. Like, why can't we do that?
I reckon we can. And I think it's also, it's so obvious then that it's nose to tail. You know, if I think about the recent, there's always like a big focus on lamb for Australia Day and the great lamb ads that get made, but there's never like someone eating, like chewing on a cheek and someone else chewing on a tail. It's always cutlets. It's like...
Yeah. This is where I'm like, the whole idea for lamb comes from, right? Because we could never afford to buy lamb, and lamb's my favourite meat. It's the most delicious meat, and even my grandmother, like, Abruzzo is where my family's from. The region is well known for sheep's milk cheese, and there's basically not very many cows there because it's mountainous, and so it's just goats and sheep. And pecorino is the most, like, and fresh ricotta made from sheep's milk. So lamb for me is important, but it's expensive. And the provenance of lamb has not really been something that lots of people have talked about. We talk about the provenance of the pork, of the beef, of the chicken, but lamb was never really a thing, like, that everyone was like, oh, your lamb's free. I remember once at Rumi, there was a customer that asked us if the lambs were free range, and I was like, what the hell is this woman on about? Of course the lambs are free range. Like, what do you mean? We tie them up to the clothesline or something, like what? How can a lamb not be free range? Anyway, I have, you know, evolved since then, and there's so many different ways to grow out lamb. Feedlot is one, but yeah, I just thought, well, I can only afford to buy lamb necks from Leo from Donati's to make lamb harira. That was the only thing that had lamb in it at Kitchenette for like 7 years. Lamb harira, that's it. Because it's too expensive, could not justify the food costs. So it was a real treat when we ate it, when we would buy it. And that actually is the easiest thing to put on a small acreage. Lambs, sheep. So, yeah, I digress as usual, but yeah.
Well, there is certainly going to be no shortage of topics to digress into or on, whatever the right proposition is for that. Jenna, thank you so much for kicking the series off with a rich and exciting introduction. And I can't wait for our next conversation.
Yeah, thanks for chatting. Very exciting.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat.deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This